We have the wonderful April Rain, the beautiful April Rain here joining us today, taking Ben's spot. So he better watch out because she might take it forever. But taking Ben's spot for today. And we're so excited to have her on. We're going to be discussing a lot of things. She's going to sit with us through the whole show. And April Rain created Oscars So White in 2015 when she started at the Academy, whose membership votes for the eventual Oscar winners were 92% white and 75% male. 6 years later, those numbers are only slightly better. Now its membership is 84% white and 68% male. In the 91-year history of the Oscars, only 5 women have been nominated for Best Director, and only one has won. The Academy has never reached out to April directly about these issues. Well, she can definitely discuss that for herself when we get to that. But despite her activism, so April, I know that was back in 2015, but it has made a major impact and a great eye opener for a lot of people when it comes to the Oscars about it being so damn white. It's not inclusive, and so definitely give us a little bit more about how that campaign started and where you are now with it.
Sure. In January of 2015, I was still a practicing attorney, and I was doing campaign finance law. So there is no nexus. I didn't know anybody. I wasn't in the entertainment industry at all. I was just an avid moviegoer and watcher. So that particular morning, I was watching the Oscar nominations on one of the morning television shows, and one of the presenters was Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor in the MCU, in the Avengers series. And, I'm like, it's Thor in a suit early in the morning. I need him on the biggest TV we have in HD. So I was actually getting dressed in the family room that morning as opposed to in my bedroom. And it struck me, as he was reading name after name after name, that there were no people of color nominated for any of the acting slots: Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. That's 20 slots. And let's remember that 2015 is for the 2014 film. So we're talking about things like Beyond the Lights, like Selma. We had David Oyelowo, who was great, and many other people. So it's not that there was a lack of talent, but it really was who the the voting members are. And so I picked up my phone, which is embedded in my forearm, and jumped on Twitter and said, "Oscars So White, they asked to touch my hair." And that was it. Nice. One tweet. I was late for work, and then I jumped on Twitter around lunchtime, and the hashtag based on that one tweet was trending internationally. And, as you can imagine, I was being snarky and sarcastic. And so the responses that we were getting were snarky and sarcastic. Oscars So White, they find mayonnaise a little spicy. Oscars So White, they've got a perfect credit score. You get it. Nice. And so it wasn't until, a couple of days later when the conversation actually turned to something more substantive about the lack of representation, initially of Black folks with respect to the Oscars. Oscars So White has now morphed into representation of all marginalized people based on race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, geography, age, experience, amongst the entertainment industry as a whole. And Oscars So White has also, I think, started some other movements and campaigns in other industries. So there's a tech So White, there's an education So White, there's a journalism So White, started not by me, but by folks who understand the issue and want to take it to, what they know. So as you mentioned, the Oscars have never reached out to me. In 2016, once again, there were no people of color nominated for any of the acting categories. And so it was in 2016 that the Academy, under the leadership of Black woman Cheryl Boone Isaacs as president, made some changes. And in fact, vowed that they would double the number of people of color and double the number of women within the membership ranks by 2020. And in fact, they did that. But Rebecca, as you read off, the numbers changed, but not enough for it to make a significant difference. The thing that I always try to tell folks, because they don't really realize this, is that most of these award shows, including the Oscars, do not require the voting body to view the performances before they vote. So if you, how can you say that something is Best Picture if you haven't seen it? If you haven't seen the other 4 in the category, whatever the case may be. And so if we know that the Academy is still overwhelmingly white and male, if we also know that people aren't required to view the films before they vote, what we're really talking about is a popularity contest amongst older white men. And if that's what we're... Yeah.
But wait a minute. You mean to tell me that people who vote for the Oscars don't have to watch the movies?
Correct. And we've seen that because...
What is the point of having an Oscar?
Right. Yes. Welcome. Join me. Yes.
Literally. If they say something is good, it's good. They don't have to see it.
I put $20 in the chat room real quick? Because I got some words I want to say about that one real quick. But no, so I do have a more substantive question besides that. That's just shocking first. That's just shocking.
Right.
Amazing work with your hashtag and amazing work with your activism. My question is, all right, so I'm going to put on my problematic black man hat real quick. Boop, it's right on my head. And all the conspiracy theories that I've had about, and I'm a movie buff myself, and all the conspiracy theories I had about these Oscars, right? The first one is Malcolm X, Denzel Washington. Right.
It was too strong of a film. You were never going to get white folks to vote for that. And there's a reason why we get slavery porn every year, because that's what white folks can deal with us being enslaved. Right. And us being their servants. But give us a fully nuanced role. You're not going to get that. There was no way that Denzel. I agree with you. I think this is where you were going, that was probably Denzel's best performance and at least deserved a nomination. Now that you know who the membership is.
They didn't even watch the movie. Okay. All right. So second one. So they did give him one when he became the bad guy in Training Day.
That's right.
Right.
And Glory when he played an enslaved man. You see it.
Right.
You see it.
Okay. Now here's my problematic thing, and y'all just gotta excuse me. I'm putting on the negative black man hat real quick, but I'm gonna take it off right after this question is over. How come Holly had to get it after she had sex with Billy, whatever his name is, in Monsters Ball? Was it that scene that got her the Academy Award? Because she's been in other movies that she played better characters. So I'm just trying to figure out, was that it?
I mean, I can't tell you how people voted, but again, she was very submissive in that role. She played, there is a larger discussion to be had about the few black women who have won and the roles that they have portrayed. So, almost all of them, black women are playing women who are broken or who are in trauma. We can go all the way back to Hattie McDaniel, who won the first one, right? Because in Gone with the Wind, she played an enslaved woman. Here we have Halle Berry, who broken. She had home insecurity. She had a lot of trauma, and there was that very explicit scene. I can't tell you exactly why people vote the way they do, but, you look at Whoopi Goldberg. She played that kooky psychic, right, in Ghost. You look at Octavia Spencer. You look at Viola Davis. All of this. So it is an issue when we cannot be recognized for roles in which we are fully developed people, especially fully developed women. And in fact, every year, The Hollywood Reporter does an anonymous interview with an Oscar voter and ask them, why did you choose the film? What films did you choose and why? And sometimes we hear, I couldn't pronounce Lupita Nyong'o, so I didn't vote for her in 12 Years.
What?
Yeah.
That's actually a thing. And it's not surprising, because if we look around us, like Mondale likes to say, all this stuff is wrapped in white supremacy. These people walk around with their privilege, and that they can come up to, these and have the fate of these great actors awards in their hands I just couldn't pronounce her name. So I just thought I wouldn't vote for her. This is crazy.
It's just right, but you can pronounce Schwarzenegger just fine. So you know what I mean. So what we also know is that since Oscar So White, that the ratings for the actual telecast of the Oscars have gone down. So if we have basically an older white man popularity contest, we have the ratings going down. We also have the fact that, especially for Black women, but for many people of color, the few that do win, the doors are not opened for them the way we would expect them to. You know, if you have Oscar nominee or Oscar winner after your name, you would think, oh, okay, they don't need to, audition for their next role, or they should be able to add a zero to, on their next check. That's not the case. Again, look at Monique, look at Halle Berry, look at Octavia Spencer. Octavia Spencer told us during Sundance, I think in 2019, that she was on a film with Jessica Chastain, a white woman who does not have an Oscar. And Jessica Chastain had to tie her salary to Octavia's. Octavia is an Oscar winner, so that she would get 5 times what they were offering her. So, you want to talk about allyship and all the rest of that stuff. That's what happened. But it shouldn't take a white woman without an Oscar to be able to help out a Black woman who does have one. So the final question is, are the Oscars, are any of these award shows still relevant once you sort of pull back the curtain and look at everything that's going on?
My last statement question to you about this, and this is kind of important for the culture. Spike Lee raised me, right? From my first pair of Jordans to Please Baby 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 Please with Michael Jordan commercials, right? Spike Lee, and I've actually been by his studio in Brooklyn. I think when it comes down to snubbing of pictures, I think Spike Lee is probably the most snubbed human being, was the most snubbed human being in Hollywood. Would you give me your opinion on his body of work and why he was left off until 2 years ago?
Because he was revolutionary and they couldn't handle it. That's the easy answer. I met Spike Lee for the first time, I think in 1989. I was in college and our school brought him right before Do the Right Thing dropped. And we knew that there was something special going on, right? But starting, as you mentioned, starting with She's Gotta Have It and going all the way to Da 5 Bloods. Da 5 Bloods was shut out of the Golden Globes nominations completely. Just a week ago. Yeah, just a week ago. So Spike has always marched to the beat of his own drummer. He has always spoken truth to power. Spike Lee had to raise money amongst the Black community, especially, rich Black entertainers, to get Malcolm X finished. We never would have seen it without the help of, Denzel putting up some of his own money and so on. So that's what it is. Spike since Spike has come along in this particular generation over the last 30 years, there's never been, I don't think, anyone who has shone a light as brightly on the Black experience in that way as Spike has. Not all of his movies have been my favorites, but there are definitely, but there's so many that are classics, right? I mean, the way that we can quote them, School Days and She's Gotta Have It and Malcolm X, he does amazing work. But again, when you look at, and let's remember, he got an honorary Oscar a few years ago, and then he actually won for Black Klansman. But let's also talk about what was going on in Black Klansman, right? It was still very, it was almost this buddy thing, and it was still centered on the white folks. And it was a lie. Yes.
And it was a lie. It was a perversion of history. So that part.
Come on with it. Yeah. Come on with it, Mondale.
The dude was responsible he was responsible for the downing of a lot of Black organizations, including one of my favorite, Black Panthers. So the way they portray him in the movie is an absolute lie. He's disgusting. And yeah, that part. It's just white folk doing what white folk want to do and supporting what white folk want to do. Even though it's a Spike Lee movie, I don't like Spike Lee movies that much because they are problematic. He takes way too much, how can I say it? Liberty with actual events. These are his true movies, or those are supposedly based on actual live people, i.e. Malcolm X, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here's what I was going to say. Oscar's so white because America's so white. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think I don't understand why we don't have a black award show like the Tyrones. Why the fuck? What?
No,
Oops.
but let's see. I really,
here's my thing.
that response always bothers me because we do, but we don't support it. We have the NAACP awards. We have the ALMA awards. We have the GLAAD awards.
That's why I was going to go.
BET
That's why I was
awards.
going with it. I was literally saying, like, we already have people that uplift us in our awards. I think the problem, we are surprised year after year that white people do white people stuff. And for me, it's like I never expected anything different. The Oscar, for me, I'm so glad growing up in my house was never an event that we sat around as a family and watched. For me, the Oscar was always so white. They never put the movies that I grew up on or what I was watching on that TV. So it was never nothing my dad was going to say, sit yourself down and watch. You know what I'm saying? Now, the NAACP award is something different. So I think for me, I appreciate the Oscar So White hashtag for a different reason. And I think to me, it's the internet version to white Hollywood, what the Bloody Sunday March was. Like, the whole world got to hear black people or see black people being, proverbially beat by whiteness on a regular basis. Like, this is happening all the time. So 2015, hashtag Oscar So White was that for me. It's just like, it just let the world see that black folk know what y'all doing. We just here moving along while y'all doing it. So that's why I appreciated the hashtag. The idea that we were going to change Oscars was never going to be the case. That's why even when people say, oh, it's 70% male, it throws some people off. Those are not black men. And people can't say that white men are black men or that we share something, because white men have an existence that is not ours. So the fact that it's 63-year-old, that's the average age of the Oscars, white men,
wow,
those are not us. Those people are more linked to, Jim Crow South and Negroes being not able to look in white folk eyes, or the days where we couldn't use the front door, than they are to me. So when they say 70% male, I want people to be clear that it's still only 2% black people that get the vote on this. And that's not a majority of black men. So I wanted people people need to know that male ain't me. So that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's not a black man. So definitely love your take on that, Mondale. It's funny because the Oscar So White, like you said, helped us understand whether or not we were watching it in our homes or anything like that. But it helped highlight and give a voice to, although we knew this was what was going on, we were so conditioned when we watched it that this was normal at some point growing up. Whether or not we watched it, we just knew that it would be majority white. We probably didn't know who those actors were, where those movies were coming from. We ourselves probably never watched them. And April pointed out something really important. We do have these Black award shows. We just don't support them as much as we do, like the Grammys, the Oscars, the Golden Globes. If we were to treat them the same, I think that, or Black folks were to treat those award shows like something serious and not just like, just another show, whatever. I think that it would garner a lot of more attention, and we would put so much more into it. In environments like that, because of that hashtag, so much more grew. So thank you for that, April Rain. Because of your hashtag, so much more came from, that's my mama. So much more came from that, like Journalism So White. It's funny because me and Ben worked at a certain location under some white folks, and we had grew the show. We hijacked the show. We hijacked like the company and created our own show and made it more us, made it more Black, and started actually being unapologetic of the stories we told. Because there was one time I was brought into the room and I was told that my content was too Black because I was at the time covering the kneeling so much, right? Mm-hmm. And then I asked my boss, both of them, and I said, so who was it that said that my content is too Black? Because the response that we're getting from both white people and Black people, everyone in between, is that thank you so much for informing us about this and what's going on, because not a lot of people were covering at the time. She says to me, our investors, and I said, so did they watch me? She said, they watched you on mute, and they said it was giving BET.
What?
Wow.
They watched me
on mute.
And it was giving them BET. Now, I said at the time, I was like, well, BET is actually one of the number one stations right now. And if you're referring to how I look without even having played or seen my content, heard my content, knowing that I'm damn good at my work, I don't understand why you're coming to me, especially you being the only woman in the room to speak for me and allowing these white men to say they watched me on mute and I was given BET. So even though they didn't hear the content, anything that I was saying, how I was saying it, anything, they said that I need to calm down with the Colin Kaepernick stories. Period.
Rebecca, did you sign a confidentiality agreement? Because they need to be put on blast.
I did.
Oh, I'm about to say, good Lord.
So yeah. It was
text me their name and I'll talk shit about them. Oops,
I got you. Look, but I definitely. But when I stood up, Ben was like, sitting there like, are these people serious? And he was like speaking, and I was like, well, let me handle this, ma'am. Are you seriously telling me that you had a room full of white people watch me and tell me that I wasn't good enough because they watched me on mute and tell me that I wasn't good enough? Right? Do you not see the numbers? Have you not heard my work, the accolades, the things that I was up for, all that as a result of my work? Did you not I do this because I know there's a message to be put out, but you guys are trying to cap me and I'm not going to allow that. And that's why in these spaces and places, we definitely got to come in and own it. We can change the narrative. We can make sure that these awards are going to the right people. We have that power. It's just about us using it. I'm glad that we're highlighting these things today. I'm glad that we have these platforms to highlight these things today because it shakes the room, especially for the Oscars, where people stopped watching, where it did potentially affect them, and with the show that I was on, I continued the next day to do those same stories. And I was like, who gonna check me? Because what you guys are giving me, I will never allow these people to tell me who I am and, tell me my value. Cause I knew I was good enough. And that's when I decided to walk away. And, you just gotta really know what's good for you. So Black folks, we need to start putting more into these award shows that we already have that are led by Black people. So not only
and we need to support Black content. I mean, part of the issue is, Black people are not a monolith, right? We are not just one community. So as Mondale said, he doesn't like all Spike Lee films. I don't either, right? There's some there I'm like, okay, you sort of missed the mark there, but I'm riding with you on XYZ. But, when things come out, the power that we have as consumers is with our dollar and with our streaming services, so pre-Panini, you needed to be out there, supporting the theater, supporting it and not bootleg it in and so on, and actually paying your $10, $12, $15, and now that we're on, we're at home and we've got Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all the rest of them, they track the algorithms. Right. And so if you're not clicking on, Malcolm and Marie is dropping today, or Jingle Jangle or whatever, if you're not clicking on it, then Netflix and Hulu and all the rest of them are going to say, oh, OK, nobody's interested in those. So we won't make any more. It is dollars. The bottom line is money, just like any other industry. So, yes, we need to support our award shows, but we also need to support our producers and our actors and our directors and the films that they create. I mean, I didn't want to necessarily change the Oscars. What I wanted is to call attention to these issues. And what gives me joy is that there are so many people now who are creating their own production companies, people from traditionally underrepresented communities. Obviously Ava DuVernay is the prototype with Array, but Michael B. Jordan has one. Viola Davis and her husband, Julius Tennant, have one. Will and Jada Pinkett Smith have one. And so what they're saying is we are not asking for a seat at the table. We are creating our own mansion and putting our own table in it. And that's what we need to be supporting.
Yes.
Amen.
I think we're giving Black people a hard time. We forget, first of all, that if we're thinking about things that are self-actualization, I talk about this in the way we do politics at Black Male Voter Project. There's a lot of times Black people can't afford. People bootleg because they can't afford things. I mean, and I'm not telling people to steal people's art because that's not fair to the people who put time and effort into it. But what I'm saying is, we shouldn't consider us as a stealing culture when we live in America and they stole people. So I'm saying when we say black people aren't a monolith, we should extend that to how we watch movies. I think we do support black people. You know, I know the viewership of the NAACP Image Awards are not that of the Oscars, but part of that is because, you know, the Oscar has the entire Hollywood behind it, and the NAACP has, you know, BET and probably TV One showing it. So whereas the viewership for the NAACP Image Award is 1.8 million and the Oscars is around 23 million. I mean, we know whiteness is always doing extra to make whiteness look like it's the norm. So I would say black people do support. It's just harder to watch the NAACP Image Award because it's not on regular TV. It is on BET, which is a cable service. And I think we have to remember that black people in this country make up the lowest rungs of all social economic markers. And because they do, there are certain things that will never be, watched as more, done as more, that white people have the ability to do because they have free time. Like I was talking about the gentleman being able to create new characters of us whenever he gets ready. Black people working 2 and 3 jobs to pay bills. And I think that takes away a lot of what we're able to do, including and have time for enjoyment, not just watching movies or watching TV, but also vacationing. So I think black people support black art.
I got one last thought, and I'm now thinking we can move on, and that's this. Everything's so white. April, when you made that hashtag, everything's so white. And as soon as we make it unwhite, it's dope. Let's go through it real quick, because I'm not trying to hold it up. The NBA. You remember the NBA in the 50s, black and white? It was a bunch of white people passing the ball around, couldn't dribble, couldn't dunk, couldn't really do any kind of fancy moves. The NBA became $1 billion industry when Dr. J and Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan came in there with their black flavor and their black passion and their black fire. The NBA, even though they still have their own issues, the NBA so white would not have been the league that it is right now, right? When you think about when you think about politics so white, right? We finally won a major election because y'all finally decided to deal with black people a little bit, or at least black people decided to deal with black people to help out white folks, right? Because politics was so white until Georgia came around, and now y'all got a House and Senate. We talk about music, rock and roll. Y'all didn't have rock and roll because rock and roll, white people music was so white. I can go through every single aspect of American history right here. Yeah, I could go through every single aspect.
Chuck Berry created rock and roll.
I know he did. That's what I'm saying. But I mean, they didn't really have. They had hillbilly music or some. I don't know what it was, but they had jazz music. But before black folks got involved with it, it was no flavor whatsoever. So I mean,
jazz is ours too. Black people created jazz. That's how African American.
No, black people jazz. Black people created most music, and white folks sold it to themselves in mainstream. Absolutely. What I am saying to you is that the powers that be have historically taken black ideas and not utilize the talents that are around them. And I think we've given them fair enough opportunity to include us in their crap. Right now, at some point, we just, as April said, we're just gonna have to make our own stuff. And then take y'all audience away because our stuff is better. Our stuff is better than yours. And I'm not trying to be racist, but history shows you that people with brown skin in America does stuff better than these white folks do. Our movies are better than yours. Black Panther was the highest. Black Panther was the highest grossing movie that Marvel came out with when they came out with it. And the reason why
are you saying your potato salad is better than one with raisin in it?
Period.
Yes, my raisinless potato salad is better than potato salad with raisins in it, right? My version of Whole Foods is better than my fried chicken sandwich is better than any of the companies that have a national. We do things better.
And you can tell because he said sandwich.